Hello, my name is Jake Sirks, and welcome to my presentation on the Metasploit Framework. Metasploit Framework is an open-source based penetration testing tool. It is used by many security professionals as well as bad actors. The use of this tool is very versatile, depending on how you need to use it, much like a Swiss Army knife. The framework comes preloaded with multiple modules containing built-in tools designed for almost any task. Through the collaborative use of these different modules and separate tools, the Metasploit framework can be wielded in a variety of ways. This tool is one of the most prominent tools in the cybersecurity field as well as in the security architect position. There are 5 modules within Metasploit. The first are NOP generators, which are used to produce a series of non-operation bytes. These bytes are critical to pad buffers and bypassing security measures. Payload modules, which are designed for shellcode that runs on the target system after successfully exploiting it. Usually, these modules will define how an intruder would interact within the compromised system. There are post-exploitation modules, which is a group of modules to be used for a system after it has been compromised to further discover more information, escalate privileges, or maintain the system's access. Auxiliary modules, which is a set of modules crafted to perform reconnaissance through different tactics. These tactics can be scanning, fuzzing, SQL injection, and many more. Lastly, there are exploit modules. This set of modules are designed to take advantage of specific vulnerabilities to gain access to a targeted system through the means such as buffer overflows, code injection, or HTTP vulnerabilities. The Metasploit contains many features within these modules, but for the purpose of the presentation and my upcoming demonstration, I'd like to just look at 2. Using the auxiliary modules, which contains roughly 1,292 different modules or features, all of these individual modules serve a similar purpose designed to fit the user's needs or target. The use of these modules gives the user the ability to scan, fuzz, and sniff networks, and those devices attached to these networks. The advantages that these auxiliary modules provide to a competent user can be endless. Using the proper scanners to further investigate an open port or running service can lead to deeper discoveries, proving vulnerabilities or provide room for exploits. Focusing now on the exploit modules, a user can use information previously gathered from auxiliary modules about possible vulnerabilities to then test them for exploits. The exploit modules allow more thorough active testing, moving past reconnaissance and into system manipulation. There are modules that brute force credentials or even deposit code that is remotely executable. The broadness of Metasploit makes the possibilities endless for a bad actor who is looking to do some crime. On the other hand, from a professional standpoint, Metasploit can show us what is vulnerable and why it is vulnerable. And here's my demonstration using Metasploit, which we will be doing it through a Kali Linux virtual machine, attacking the Windows Server 2016 VM on an open port 445. My name is Jake Sirks, and today we will be doing a virtual lab demonstration of the Metasploit framework using a Kali Linux virtual machine and the Windows Server 2016 machine, which is right here once it connects. So to start, we're going to need the IP address of this device that we are wanting to attack. So in order to find that, we can go to the command prompt and enter the ipconfig command, which will then display us with the IP address of this local device of 10.0.0.57. So with that information, we can then go over to our Kali Linux virtual machine, which will be doing all of the legwork here. So to start, we want to use the Metasploit framework. To begin, you need the VM password, which we all know. And while the database loads, the purpose of this demonstration is to exemplify the utility and the powerful abilities that Metasploit framework has and it's able to do. You can do a lot of different things, as you can see here. There's exploits, there's auxiliaries, there's post-exploits, there's payloads, there's encoders, there's NOPs, there's evasion tactics. Metasploit is built with a ton of tools that anybody can use, ranging from a professional cybersecurity professional standpoint all the way down to a malicious actor who is looking to do something similar like we're doing today. However, the purpose of this tool in a professional sense is penetration testing, which is practically what we're doing today. So to begin, Metasploit is now open and operating. So we know the IP address for the Windows server is 10.0.0.57. So to start, I'd like to see what services are running on that. So we'll use nmap, and when we look for services, we can do S and S. I also like to look at the service and their version. It's one less step that I have to do. So we can run that command here, sudo nmap. Using the sudo gives me root privileges, which actually allows me to run the nmap command through Metasploit. This will take a moment, so once this is done, we can then get to see what ports are open on the device that we are attacking. And when this command is done, it will show us a long list of all the open ports and their services and what version that service is running currently. That's pretty insightful, as it does let us know not only what services are open, but also what ports are open, which also are not directly vulnerabilities. They can be vulnerabilities in the event that they're outdated. So in the purpose of this demonstration, we'll be looking at the port 445 and the Microsoft DS service, which is Microsoft's standard block message platform protocol. They use it to basically interact between network devices and share files. Um, One thing I've come to notice is that the service version for the Microsoft DS is 2008 to 2012, whereas when we run the nmap o command onto the 10.57, we can actually see, once again, this will take a few moments, but actually, just kidding. Once this command runs, we can actually see that the Windows server is running the operating system of Windows 16, which in theory would mean that our port 445 is outdated. At least the service that it is running is outdated, which means it might be vulnerable to some sort of exploits. So what we can do here is, knowing that 445 and the Microsoft DS service is an SMB service, we can go ahead and start searching for SMB. And through here, there's a whole lot. So we can, in order to narrow down the list, we know that we're looking for a scanner. So search scanner SMB. And this narrows our list down to a small amount. So the goal of this demonstration is to show how we can use Metasploit to not only define vulnerabilities, but as well as exploit and then gain access into a device. So I would like to use the 11th module here, which is the auxiliary scanner SMB login. You can run the options command after you select something, which then shows you all of the module options, which are settings that we have to set. Um, Considering we know the virtual machine's username and password, I won't password crack it. I will, however, do a brute force attack on the username, just because the username for the device is within a short list, uh, just to further demonstrate the capabilities of Metasploit. So to start, we need to set the remote hosts to the domain, or the IP address, I apologize, of the machine we would like to attack. So that would be set our host to 10.0.0.57. So then we know that we want to use a file to crack the username. So we can go here to File System, User, Share, Secret Lists, and then from Secret Lists we would like to go to Usernames. And off of usernames, we can just use the top usernames shortlist txt. So to go ahead and use that within here, we're going to go back to our Metasploit, do set user underscore file, all capitals, and then we're going to document the path to that. So /user /share secret lists /username. Was it username or names? It was usernames, and the file that we want to access is a text file, which is required by Metasploit in this case. So it'll be top usernames shortlist.txt, which is a direct line into our file here. Is that right? That is correct. So we can go ahead and set enter. We know the password in this case, so we will go ahead and do the set, where's it at? SMB pass. Yes, SMB pass, and that would be the password that we know it as. For demonstration purposes, I would like to clarify one more time. In the event that we did not know the password to the virtual machine server that we are attacking, we would as well do a similar command as above. We would set the password file to a separate name, and that would then password crack that for us. However, what we're trying to do here is just confirm that we can log into this device. So what I'm doing is I know the username can be found within this file above, and I understand the password is what we are about to set it at. So as long as everything is correct, I like to check the options one more time. So as long as these things are set up correct, we should be able to now run this command. And it will then run a list until it finds the valid input, which was right here. So this was now our brute force command, which ran through the list of names in our user file, and until it eventually hit administrator as a username using the password we gave it, and that got us in. So we can see our username is administrator, and our password is the capital $PA$$WORD. So from here, we now know we can log into the device using those credentials. So what we would like to do next is we want to find the SMB, it's an exploit. It is a Windows exploit, so we can search Windows exploit SMB. That's a long list. So then through here we can go back and find the one that we need, which is somewhere in here. We were going to use the 21. And to confirm this is the one we want, we can pull up the info and do the number that it gave us of the module. And here, yep, this is the module that we want to use. So now we'll do use 21, which is the same number it gave us previously. And it tells us there's no payload configured, which is important because we need a payload in order to get into the shell of the device. So the next steps would be to check out the options again. And this is when it's important to remember that we just learned the username and password above, which were, bear with me, administrator and password right here. So we need to take this username and this password and enter them down below in this command here. So set smb pass, and we will set it to the password that we learned was our correct password. And we will also set the SMB username to the username that we were able to log in as, which is administrator. And then we also need to reconfigure our rhosts, which you can also set a global host, which you can do that through the setg rhost command. I just prefer, for the sake of practice, to re-enter the rhost every single time. You can enter that, double check everything is how it needs to be. Okay, and now we are looking at everything we have entered, so we can see we've entered the username, the password, as well as a host. So the next thing to do is exploit. And as long as this works, we should be able to execute a PowerShell and get access into the shell. Which now we have a meter preter session, which we can see here is indicating that we are now into the system. So to confirm this, we can type system info. And this tells us that the system we are currently looking at is a Windows 2016 operating system. It's operating, there's 22 logged on users. We can see who we are. Apologies, that's only in the shell, I forgot. So now we are in the shell of the device. So we can see who we are. So we're actually logged in a system which has higher privileges than the administrator. That's kind of new actually. So from here we can send um, we can make a text file and put it onto the document, or we can go through and apologies, my PowerShell commands are very limited, but we can, I know. Okay, so from this standpoint, my PowerShell commands are not that good. But in order to see who, we know we are logged in as the system, which is a step above of the administrator in this case that we are used to. So one thing we can do to see what users are on here is we can query users, and we can see that there's an administrator. So what I'd like to do just to demonstrate that we are actually inside of the system and we can move around and do things, I would like to make a text file. So to do so, we'll enter echo, and let's say something like, you have been hacked. LOL. Um, and that'll be our message. So to terminate it, we can run these, and then we're going to enter it back into the system. So we know that we're a step ahead of everything, so we don't actually have access to a direct path because we are the system. So we're going to create a path, which is a real path, using the things that we have just learned. There's our administrator, and we want to put this text file on the desktop. So we're going to put it desktop, and then we'll name it hello.txt. And as long as we have ran this correct, we should now be able to exit out of this virtual machine and walk over to this virtual machine. And let me get rid of this. Oh, look at that. There's our text file. Now entering this, we can see we've been hacked. And that is my Metasploit demonstration of how to use the modules. We did this through the exploitation and the use of the auxiliary modules, as well as one of the scanning modules and the exploitation modules. I hope you enjoyed my demonstration. Thank you for joining me. And that will conclude my presentation on the Metasploit framework.